to the Health Coach Nation podcast. I'm your host, Haley Rowe, and on this show, we cover marketing, sales, time management, and mindset for wellness professionals, life coaches, and online service providers. And originally, I got into the space because I see how many of you struggle with the sales and marketing side. And I used to work in marketing and business development for startups. And I love the coaching world. I think you all have amazing gifts to offer. But another big part of what holds coaches back in their business is their mindset too. So sometimes it's not just you don't have the skills in sales and marketing. Sometimes there's some subconscious beliefs going on. And that's why I wanted to bring on Christine Piney. And Christine is a subconscious expert and speaker who helps purpose-led entrepreneurs remove subconscious blocks that limit their income, visibility, and consistent client growth. After healing her own chronic illness, burnout, and recurring financial scarcity by rewiring the root causes in her subconscious, Christine developed a proven method that allows founders to identify and shift internal patterns quickly so they can grow a business without sabotaging themselves. Thank you so much for being here, Christine. I'm so excited to dive into this.
Hi, Haley. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited too. Let's see what's going to come out today.
Yes, and you're all the way in Barcelona too. So how did you end up there? I'm just curious.
About 8 years ago, I moved here with my ex-boyfriend, and we arrived, we split up. I love the city, I stayed, and I'm still here. He left, and it was actually a really amazing gift.
Wow. Okay. Way to turn it into a positive journey. So tell me a little bit about when you say subconscious, you're a subconscious expert and speaker. What does that really mean? Tell me more about what is the subconscious situation we need to be aware of.
Yes. So each one of us has a conscious mind, which is really where we rationally think, where we listen to right now while you're listening to this podcast. You're using part of that conscious mind to rationally understand the information, cluster it, label it, and then use it afterwards. That's about 5% of our cognitive function that we're using. The other 95%, that is the subconscious. That is everything that's going on below the surface to make sure that we survive. So these are things to help us manage our bodily functions, like our heart rate, our breathing, all of that stuff that helps us to really stay alive as a human. But also there are a lot of beliefs and a lot of other automatic reactions and habits that our subconscious is managing to help us get through the day. So just think about if you're driving to work. A lot of the times when you're driving to work, you don't really remember how you got there. You're just kind of arrived. That's when the subconscious took over and automatically did an action for you because your rational mind wasn't needed. And the problem with that is that a lot of times the subconscious takes over without us knowing, specifically when we grow our business, specifically when we post, when we talk to clients, or when we talk to possible leads. The subconscious kind of takes over with these beliefs that we have stored in there to make sure that we're safe. And the subconscious is mainly concerned with our survival, not with our success, because oftentimes success and growing doesn't seem very safe for the subconscious. And that's why it really comes in and starts to sabotage our decisions, our actions, our behaviors in very subtle and small ways that we're often not even aware of. We're just asking afterwards, what happened? Why can't I continue growing my business? Why can't I stay consistent? Why am I not showing up? Why am I freezing? And we're asking all of these questions and we're not even aware that it comes mainly from the subconscious.
That is so interesting. So when it comes to some common blocks that you see, what are some that you see among early stage entrepreneurs?
Well, definitely money, but money, I think this is very universal if you're starting out, but also if you're further along. Usually it has a lot to do with beliefs about the responsibility that comes in when we start to make money, when we start to have clients. Can we trust ourselves in really holding these clients and helping them and making sure that they have their transformation. So that's one that's talked about very often. There is another one that's not talked about so often, and that's very present in early stage entrepreneurs, which is called an addiction to hardship. And our subconscious kind of is addicted to this idea that everything needs to be hard, that we have to struggle, that we need to hustle to get to where we want to go. And that's where usually, specifically, if we're very ambitious, we are like super disciplined, we're doing all of the things. We might think about our business all the time. It's very hard to switch off at night, or like when you're with family or when you're with your friends, because you're constantly thinking about it, because the subconscious has been trained to believe that we can only get where we want to go if we continuously really make it hard for us and hustle and hustle and hustle. And that's something that we often think about. It comes from our childhood, but actually this goes back even further. Because if we look at the subconscious and where beliefs come from, they don't only come from our childhood, they also come from our parents and grandparents and going back in time. And if you think back to your parents or your grandparents or even further along, for most of us, there will be some times where it was really, really hard. So for example, my granddad was in the Second World War. I know that the ancestors before that, they lived through like the Depression and the industrialization and all of these different stages where literally you learned you have to really work hard, you have to struggle to survive. And if you would rest and just really allow things to flow and receive, that wasn't an option. So we kind of taken that, and it was passed down through the subconscious of all our ancestors until us today. And we're still holding these beliefs around how much we actually need to work hard and hustle. And that's also where I see a lot of early stage entrepreneurs then quit at one point because it feels too hard, or it feels like it's never going to be achievable, or we need to put so much energy into it, it's just easier to find a job again. Or even in the worst case, burnout. I have some health issues that hold us back from continue growing our business.
Yeah, 100%. And I think another big thing is sometimes when you're early on in your business, you're doing what you feel like is a lot of work. A, because your capacity is more limited because you're newer, so everything just feels harder. But B, because there's a delayed gratification in getting business results. Like you have to show up for a little while, you have to build relationships, you have to start doing all of these things. And I think a big one that I see is people wanting like, oh, well, I did these things, so it should equal this. And when it doesn't, they get upset. Instead of like troubleshooting and seeing where they can improve, they get more in their mind and make it mean something. Or they get in this like, I'm doing all these things and it's not working. And then it's, how do you see that like sabotage them deeper? Like what should they do if they're in that state where maybe they're not obsessed with hard. Maybe they want it to be easy and it is hard and they are like stuck in that stage. What would you say to them to help them start to move through that?
Very good question. So first of all, I've grown 2 businesses now, and yes, it can be hard, and yes, you can make it extra additionally hard as well. So the first thing is really understanding, yes, you're learning a new skill. Like learning any new skill, it's not going to fall from the sky. You need to put in the reps and you need to do the things. But this doesn't mean you have to get obsessed about the thing that you're doing in a way that you're losing sleep over it, in a way that you're losing your relationships, your friendships, etc. over it. So I would really advise them, if they're in that state, to look at their beliefs, to look at the beliefs around business has to be hard, it has to be hard to grow, but also beliefs around their own self-worth. If the subconscious believes that they are worthy of having this business, or worthy of having these specific clients, worthy of making that amount of money, or good enough. I mean, these are kind of like in the same category if they're good enough to do that. And look at these beliefs, because usually what we see in people that are like working very hard and also often quite perfectionistic, I would say, they have like a lot of these beliefs that they are not good enough to actually get there, not good enough to get what they want, in addition to these beliefs that they have to work really hard. And that kind of combination then makes things even harder than they should be.
Yeah. Yeah. What about if they're like, I want it to just all be easy, and if it's not, I'm sad. What that's what I see. They just want everything to be easy, and if it's not, then something's clearly really, really wrong. And easy is such a subjective term, but you know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Like they just want, I want to wake up tomorrow and have this much money in my bank account without really doing that much. How would you respond to that?
Well, yes, definitely seen that. Definitely in the beginning of my business, also felt that as well. That has usually a lot to do with beliefs around power, giving our power away and believing that we are entitled to a certain result and believing that someone will come and save us, whether this is that the coach we invested in or the strategy that we found. And then we realize we use it a little bit, but we realize, wow, okay, it's actually something that I need to practice. I need to put the repetitions in. There's usually beliefs around giving your power away, not believing that you can hold this power and actually make something work. But of course, I mean, in the end, it's all connected. So it can still also be beliefs around your self-worth and not enoughness that play into that specific scenario as well.
Yes. Okay, that's so interesting. I do agree with you that at the root, it's, I want that magic pill, I want that magic coach, I want that magic formula, and then I'll feel better because I'm outsourcing my power to something else instead of building it within and seeing yourself as capable of that. So, how does somebody start to build that belief of worthiness if they grew up with some kind of challenges or they don't feel like they have that? Like, how do we start to get our power back over some of these beliefs?
Yes. So it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't even matter where this belief was created. If this was in your childhood, if you had the most horrible childhood and things, or if you had the best childhood, even then you can have, like, as I said before, beliefs from your grandparents or someone else that you don't even know about. So it doesn't matter where these beliefs come from. And I wouldn't go into reflecting and analyzing and understanding where this is, because this is in the past. We can't change it. We have to deal with the beliefs that we have right now in our subconscious and then start changing them. So the first step that I do with my clients and that I also teach is we need to measure for beliefs. So this is not just thinking about it, sitting down and reflecting. Your body gives a very specific response if a belief is active or if a belief is not active. So I teach my clients how to measure for that belief in their body, because very often when we start measuring, then we see that actually a lot of beliefs that we kind of said before, like, oh no, this is not for me, I won't have this, I will be fine with that these beliefs are actually active. And once we start seeing what's actually going on in the subconscious, that's already a breakthrough. Now we're aware, okay, well, it's this belief that's driving me in this direction. It's this belief that's making me give up. It's this belief that is making me overthink or shrink when I say my price or something like this. Now we know. Once we know and we're clear on what is this actual belief, then we need to start reprogramming it. And this is not something where you do affirmations for the next few weeks and hope that hopefully this belief changes at one point. No, there is a very structured process with which, once you know the belief, you understand why you are holding this belief. Because for every belief, your subconscious has a reason. So, for example, if you hold a belief around you need to give your power away, or it's not safe for you to hold your power to do something specific, this belief, you might be holding it because maybe in your childhood it wasn't safe to hold that belief. Because if you would speak up to your parents, you would have been punished, or something like this. Just an example. So you need to understand the benefits, why the subconscious is holding on to this belief, release these, and then there's a structured process I teach where you change this one belief that you're having for a new empowering belief. After that, you test that the change has happened. And usually from that, you start acting, deciding differently and showing up in your business differently, because once this underlying programming that's running 95% of our decisions and actions changes, you automatically are going to act and decide differently in your life.
I love that. Yeah. What about overwhelm? Can you talk a little bit about where does that usually stem from, and how would you advise an entrepreneur to either manage overwhelm, or, I know they would go through your process to maybe work through some beliefs they have about how much they can take on and things like that. But what would you just say on the topic of overwhelm?
I mean, overwhelm can come from many things. Yes, maybe you really have taken on too many things and you're not prioritizing or structuring your work. But also, overwhelm, how I see it, comes very often from, on some level, not believing in ourselves, but still kind of pushing forward, but in a very harsh way. And our subconscious kind of creates like these feelings, these sensations of overwhelm to tell us, okay, you need to align something in your subconscious before you continue going in that direction, instead of banging your head against the wall. So yes, I would advise to really look into what is behind that overwhelm. What's the question you can ask yourself is, if you really dive into this overwhelm and you let it take over, what's the worst thing that would happen? And yes, this question sounds a little bit radical, but usually once we understand what's the worst thing our subconscious imagines would happen, we understand, okay, in what direction does this go and what kind of beliefs could be underneath. A practice you can do on the spot before you change beliefs and also in the moment is coming back to yourself and really disconnecting from the beliefs and all of the sensations and emotions that are happening in connection to these beliefs. It's a very simple practice. You close your eyes, you take a deep breath, and then you say, I am. And you don't add anything after that. You don't say your name or you don't think about who you are, but you just say, I am. And you feel in that space afterwards, because usually that kind of space afterwards, that cuts through the subconscious noise and the noise that's then created in the head, and gives you a little bit, even if it's just a split second, of calm. And then from that state of calm, it's going to be a lot easier to understand, okay, what's actually happening behind this overwhelm? Why am I creating this?
Yes, great advice. And what about, you said that strategy fails without subconscious alignment. So two different scenarios, like we could have two different clients and give them both a really great strategy plan, and one is crushing it or seeing results with it and another is not. Tell me a little bit more about what's going on there. Why does that happen? What have you seen that look like, maybe? And we'll go from there.
Yes. I've seen this in myself and I've seen this with many clients as well. And the thing with that is that anything that happens in your life is filtered through your subconscious. And it does that to make sure that you survive. So any kind of strategy that you're given or any kind of system in your business is filtered through your subconscious as well. And your subconscious makes a decision if it is safe to implement that thing or if it is not safe. So probably for the entrepreneur that's taking the strategy, that's really crushing it, their subconscious decided, yes, this is safe for me to implement. And also where I'm going to get with this is a safe place for me. There's no danger in it, or maybe it's maybe a little bit, but good enough so that I can keep going. So then they can implement the strategy. They're not going to sabotage themselves and they're going to run with it. The other person will have a lot of beliefs around specifically what will happen once the strategy achieves their goal. Let's say you give them a strategy to sign 10 new clients. So their subconscious might have a lot of problems, a lot of blocks with, okay, now I have 10 clients. I can't hold the responsibility. I will burn out. All of these things will happen. So subconscious starts spiraling and making sure that we're not going to get to this dangerous place where we're literally in danger. So this person will start to implement that strategy. That's amazing. That could work, but they're going to sabotage in slight ways. This might be they're not staying consistent. This might be they are drilling down on their voice, on who they authentically are in their messaging. This might be maybe they arrive a little bit late to their calls, or they don't show up at all, or maybe they don't sleep the day before something very important and then don't deliver well. So this can be very small individual things, how we start sabotaging. And we do that unconsciously. And then we follow that strategy more or less inconsistently and ask afterwards, well, the strategy didn't work. But it was not that the strategy didn't work. It was just that the beliefs were not in alignment with where we wanted to go.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah. And what about like finding strategies that align with your beliefs? Like sometimes, some of my clients, they love being on video and naturally already like want to do that, versus other clients either have to grow into it or choose a different strategy entirely because they are more of a writer or things like that. So how do you tell if it's like, oh, we just should do a different strategy just because of who you are, I guess? Or is it like, no, we need to work on your beliefs so that you make video work for you? Like, tell me more about that.
Very good question. In the end, you can only answer that in a very specific case, talking to the person. I'm a big believer of there are so many billion people in the world, so there is so many billion ways of how we can use strategy. There is no one strategy that's going to work exactly the same for everybody. So every time we get a new strategy, or we invest in a coach, or we invest in kind of a program, the first thing to ask is, from what type of belief are we investing in? Is the belief triggered that we have to give our power away, and that's why we're investing to get the strategy to hope that someone else is going to fix something? Then we already know, before we invest, do belief work, so that you can invest from a place of, okay, if I get this, I'm going to use this, I stand in my power. And then you start implementing the thing. And as you're implementing the thing, you will, or the strategy, the system, you will naturally see what happens, where resistance comes up. If it is about that you don't enjoy it and you really drain doing this, for example, being on camera or being on video, you drain it because you don't enjoy it, instead of you don't do it because you feel afraid or you're fearing that maybe someone will judge you. So you really look at, okay, is this a factor of like, I don't like this because it's just not what I want? Or is there a fear? And this kind of fear is holding me back. If we have a fear, clean out the fear. It could still be that afterwards you say, I don't like this thing. This is just not for me. But at least then you know that this is not about the beliefs anymore. It's just not the right strategy. So what I usually do with clients, I give them the strategies, but I encourage them to think for themselves, to really see, okay, is there a fear behind that, or am I just not enjoying this? And then start implementing something and see how you can stay consistent with that and continuously update your subconscious to work with either direction that you're going in.
Yes, I love that. Okay. And one thing I'm really excited about is you're going to actually come into the Inner Circle, which is my A to Z business growth program, and talk about these subconscious beliefs and help my clients with some of theirs. And I was reading your bio, and you had mentioned that one of the ones you've done this work yourself, which is great. And that's what I like to see when, we bring in guest speakers. But you mentioned you moved through financial scarcity. So I think that's a big one a lot of people struggle with. Can you tell us a little more about your journey with that and how you moved through it?
Yes. So I started to be an entrepreneur about 8 years ago. I founded a medtech company, and we were helping thousands and thousands of patients. We had a really cool product. We even had studies that proved that we were helping these patients. And in terms of like helping, in terms of creating value and impact, it was amazing. But we could never break beyond a certain revenue ceiling. And so there was always kind of like this question, okay, where will the money come from? And looking at the bank account was triggering at times. Let's put it that way. And because I was caught in all of like these beliefs around, okay, I can't make money with this, like this is gonna be hard, like all of the things that we already talked about. I like completely overworked. I completely just like put everything into it, but way too much. And because of that, I burned out. I got really sick. I had a lot of chronic health issues that doctors told me, well, this is what you have now. Good luck. You're probably gonna have to live with that. And I didn't want to accept either of that. I didn't want to accept, okay, that I have to, like, that I hustled so hard. We don't get anywhere. We're still not breaking through. We're like helping so many people, but we're not making the money. And on the other hand, have the health issues. And at the time, I didn't see how these two things were connected. For me, there were like two issues I was given, I had to deal with. But as I was like trying to solve either one of them and like working with different strategies and systems, but also like talking to different or like working with different people in the health field, none of these really improved, or the things improved a little bit. Maybe we had like a small contract, but then things like kind of broke off again, or maybe my health improved a little bit, but then it was worse again. I started to notice these patterns, and I started to notice that there has to be something deeper. And that's when I went to learn and study about the subconscious and understood, okay, like there's these beliefs that are creating all of these conditions, whether it is the scarcity, whether it's the health issues or not sleeping or whatever it is, it's all connected at a subconscious level. And so as soon as I reprogrammed the beliefs around my health and around I have to hustle and I have to do it and I can't rest and all of these things, my health cleaned up. But as a side effect, we also signed a huge contract with a pharmaceutical company, and suddenly we started to make a lot of money. And that's when I noticed, okay, like it's all connected. Like even if we're talking a lot of the times about like the money blocks and the scarcity and it's just money, it's not just money. When we look at money, we have to look at so many different factors, because it could be connected to your health. It could be connected to your self-worth. It could be connected to visibility beliefs or the power beliefs or anything else. So when we want to figure out scarcity, yeah, we need to look at what is going on in your life in that moment.
Yes, I love that. Wow, what a story. And kudos for turning things around and using these different strategies. So what if people want to learn more about this? If they're like, where do I even start? How do I get in touch with you? Where should they go?
Well, easiest, follow me on Instagram. There I share a lot of tips about the subconscious, explanations, how this works, how this affects your business, also how you can test for beliefs. And then if you actually want to go deeper, I have a scan where I teach you exactly how to measure your subconscious beliefs and find which areas in your subconscious are blocked that are slowing down your business growth. So this is a free scan that you can use, and in about 30 minutes, you understand, okay, what's actually going on and what is the thing inside of me that's blocking me, that's making sure that the strategies and all of these amazing things that I have are not working. So this is what I would recommend you to start to even understand, okay, what's actually the problem.
Yes, amazing. Well, we love a good scan or quiz that people can take to build more self-awareness. So we'll put that in the show notes at haleyrowe.com. And if you guys have questions for Christine, what's your Instagram username?
It's Christine_Peine. So my name with an underscore in the middle.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today. And if you guys are listening and you like the show, please leave us a written review on iTunes. It helps us get more reach. I guess I should say Apple Podcasts, not iTunes, but helps us get more reach. And we really, really appreciate it. And I thank you so much, Christine, for sharing your wisdom today.
Thank you so much as well, Haley.